Sometimes, project cars physics look worse than they are because of this issue. Very often tracks are just not accurate enough, and certain corners don't look like the real deal at all. Let me start saying, I am not one of these people obsessed with laser scan tracks. If the end result is convincing and nothing feels off, I don't care about the technology used. It is true that the few laser scan tracks in the original project cars did stand out in terms of quality, but that doesn't have to be the case. With a bit of attention to detail, they could improve a lot many of the racetracks in this game. Now let me be clear about what exactly annoys me about some of the tracks. It is not the background or even the lack of bumps. Most often, the real problem are track limits. Curves that are too big or small, pieces of turf missing, and other details can completely change the ideal line through a corner, to the point where the corner isn't anything like the real one anymore. In the first part of the video, I'll talk about curves. It's impossible to establish a trend about what the game does wrong, because depending on the track, the issues are different. So let's have a look at the most common problems the game has in this area. Inaccurate curves are everywhere in the original game. It's impossible to aim for perfection here, because every year tracks take extra measures to keep the drivers on the track, or sometimes remove some stuff if they feel it's too dangerous. You cannot ask the games to keep up with these changes, but what is not acceptable is completely made up stuff. Some zones in the game are not just old, they are flat out grown and have never looked anything like that. If you have watched my videos for a while, you'll probably already know what examples I like to use. We are arriving to the last chicane in Sector 3 in Barcelona, and that is one of the spots that makes me rage when I come back to this game. This will be the fastest line for most cars in real life. While this is what the game wants you to do. But this is not the only example at this track. The chicane right before Kamsa lacks a high curve that has been there for ages, and that makes it much easier to straight line. Anyway, it's not a matter of one particular track. You probably heard me complain about NGK chicane before. This is what you should do. And this is what the game allows you to do. This one is really bad, and if you drive casually around the zone, you can see that the second set of curves is pretty much flat. Understanding the reasons behind this is really important. I have read two different theories to explain this. Some say they downsize some problematic curves intentionally to make life easier for drivers, and that this is just to make their game more accessible, a bit like the Formula 1 games have been doing all these years. Some others say this is just lack of attention to detail, and that all this stuff simply slipped through as no one cared enough to correct it. Depending on what was the true reason for this, we will have to adapt our expectations for the sequel. If they did this on purpose, expect more of the same. If they simply failed to pay enough attention and made mistakes, we should expect improvements. Now, I want to give my opinion on this. I think they simply messed up, and I have to explain why. I cannot see a constant trend to make curves a walk in the park. There are many individual curves that are way too easy to navigate, but at the same time, in some other locations, there are lethal curves that feel way more tricky to use than in other games or what you often see real drivers do. A good example would be most outside curves in Brands Hatch. They are extremely denty and slippery, very tricky to ride. This is common in the British tracks they did scan. Taking low on stiff cars to Snetterton and being optimistic over curbs will result in scary moments. If you don't give them some respect, sooner or later they will end your race. And these are relatively low curbs. There are some huge ones in other parts of the track, very often on tricky corners, and there was no effort at all to make these sections easier. Keep an eye on the size of these things. But not only in these scan tracks you can find examples of tricky curves. There are other famous locations where some corners are much harder to abuse than in real life. Let's take a single-seater to Hockenheim. You probably know the fast right-hander into the stadium section. The real cars use all of the green painted tarmac with no trouble at all. Yet in the game, it's very easy to lose the car going up and down the curbs. The same can be said for turn 1. Once they stopped polishing the white lines, real cars started making a joke of the runoff area, using it without backing off at all. That's a no-no in project cars. If you ask a lateral effort while riding these curves, you are likely to crash. These are the reasons why I don't think they intentionally keep curbs easy, and that's why I am optimistic for the sequel in this area. Now we change topic. While the quality of the curbs can be described as inconsistent, the grip levels on runoff areas, astroturf, grass and gravel are complete rubbish. None of these are a threat for your car, at least not as much as they should. Turf feels exactly the same as tarmac. Grass is extremely grippy and smooth like a pool table. Braking with 2 wheels on grass or finding traction on corner exit with 2 wheels on grass is way too easy. You barely have to back off, and you just don't lose enough time. Gravel does slow down your car a lot, and if you just put 2 wheels on it, it will turn your car to that side. It's sort of okay, but again not dangerous enough. As a result, old school tracks with grass right beside the curbs don't feel right. You don't need to be that precise, and there's not a feel of driving on the edge of an accident. Let's move to Donington and see some examples. This is already a huge problem for a circuit racing game, but for a game with rallycross content and ice, this could turn out to be a mortal sin. Thanks for watching.